Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk, straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know Show. I am Jim McPhee, and of course, right there in the studio is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Oils? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are locked and loaded, ready to go. We got a lot of things to talk about here. We got some updates.
Saucy.
That's right, some updates on the meetings. Some things happened that we didn't expect, and then the other things, very, very interesting to say the least, to hear some details that are coming out of the NFL meeting. But listen, Jim, this is going to be a big one. I can't wait to get into it. But before we do all that, we do have to say condolences to the family, friends, and whoever knew the man, Jim Irsay, former owner of the Colts now. Jim Irsay was one of the kind of like the key cogs, you could call it, a guy that was very, very intricate into the NFL and its growth. And he had some good points and everything. Also loved his lines, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but
everybody will remember the whole getting pulled over with a bag full of money and everything. So I think will live throughout, the test of time. With Emerson.
But to say the least, condolences to everybody that knew the man, that was with the man, that loved the man. That is Jim Irsay. Wish you all the best. Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah, he bought the Colts back in 1997, and at the time he was the youngest owner to ever have a team. I think he was like 36 or so, or 37. I think it was like 36 at the time. So had a his father had bought the Baltimore Colts and things like that too.
Yeah.
So he had, a lineage in learning how to run the process and things. So owned them for a very long time. Very interesting, very outspoken guy. And it is sad to see him go, but he had been battling with health issues here, and finally, unfortunately, he has passed. So condolences, like Joe said, to all of friends and family and the football community as a whole for loses Jim Irsay now.
Yeah.
So, and condolences to all the Colts too out there too,
right.
And fans. All right, so Joe, like you said, very exciting time. Spring league meetings going on or just wrapping up. And first of all, it just happened the other day, too, but we want to bring it up because we do have a very strong flag football community. So we wanted to bring this fact up here about the NFL has approved players to participate in the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. So this is a big game changer, at least for the Olympics now. And for really any NFL players that want to try and try their hand in flag football and, represent the country for one, because that's one thing that, they had Justin Jefferson on as like a representative because they are in Minnesota stuff and kind of to help, fight for this to kind of pass, advocate for it. He had said it's great. It's one thing you could, dream of being a Super Bowl champion, play this and that, but you never had the opportunity to just say, hey, I could be an Olympian because, I played football. They just recently added flag football into this, and it's going to be this coming Olympics here that is in the U.S. So it's a great opportune time for a bunch of different reasons. For one, especially the fact that we have an Olympic Games here in the United States for the first time in a long time. It's in LA, and we get to showcase our game, the American football game, and the flag version of it. But there's so many gifted athletes now that get to try out for the Olympics and now with the addition of some NFL players that can opt in. I think that's very substantial.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a huge hurdle. I mean, for flag football, the sport that it is, and it's been growing like tremendously, like immensely. It's kind of one of the faster growing sports, in the modern era, and good. It's great. Like we've heard it from every level now. Like flag football just continues to get bigger and bigger. High school, college, it's growing everywhere. Down south had a huge push. Like we all know down south is big and well known for their football. So, and it's kind of just grown from there. And there's always been like a pro level for flag football, and there's definitely like former pro NFL players that play in those leagues and everything like that. And now we're at a point in time where, holy shit, we can actually have an Olympic US team to play flag football. And it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be a lot like how we dominate football, how we dominate the NBA, like especially NBA and the Olympics. I just feel like we're going to have guys that just are so much better than a lot of the other athletes. And it's not to say that maybe other countries are going to be just as good. It's possible, but man, homegrown in the US of A, like
Mhm,
it's going to be tough to beat our athletes and guys that have been playing for years. This
mhm.
this is a different sport than the NFL. This isn't football. It is in a sense, but it's another sport entirely by itself. So there's different
Right.
rules. It's not tackling, it's flag grabbing more than anything. Yeah, is it physical? Absolutely. It's going to be physical, but it is a different mindset you have to have. There are different techniques that you have to utilize. And I'll tell you right now, we got some homegrown talent locally close to Albany that in upstate New York that I'll tell you right now, a guy by the name of CJ Tarver, that he's one of many guys that I think that could really push this Olympic team. And the great thing is, you talk about opportunity, like across the nation. There's guys like CJ Tarver, like Jo, like um, and there's just so many more to list, and that's just locally that we're talking.
Mhm.
Think about across the nation. There's guys like that that all should be trying out for this Olympic football team. And how cool would that be to go from kind of like only a locally known or travel wise known player to now nationally known and possibly a gold medalist.
Right. Right. I mean, that's big. That's another step, like you said, that before you never would have ever even dreamt of, and how big it's gotten globally. Now you know, because once you know that, it's big when the NFL even jumped on it, and now they've got their signature on it too as well to help promote it, and showing it on their games too. Here it is, and
Mhm.
the NFL, flag football experience and whatnot. So now they're going hand in hand, and this is big not only for the men, but the NFL and stuff like that. But there's going to be a women's team too in the Olympics here for flag football, and I think that's why
Yeah.
flag football has actually jumped to the heights that it is because it's all inclusive. You know what I mean? To where it doesn't matter where you're, just because it's like you said, it is a physical game. You can get physical, but the rules are just different enough that to where you don't. You're not making major collisions and things like that, intentionally. The way NFL football, American football with pads and things are, and how it's designed. Um,
Right.
but and like you said though too, the techniques that people learn to take an advantage in this particular sport are amazing too, and next to none too. The dip and things, and to trying to avoid the getting your flag snatched. I think it's really developed a bunch of different types of moves that have worked. That if you look at if somebody tried to do that in the NFL, it wouldn't even really matter, But
No.
in
That's
in the
different.
in the
Yeah.
flag, I mean, it's substantial again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We got our guy Paul Gifford. Thanks for tuning into the show, Paul. Appreciate the comment. Said they should be able to play in it without question. And he's alluding to the players that I mentioned, just a couple that off the
Yeah.
top. And I mean, there's more guys than that too. Like, I mean, there's guys that play on the travel circuit locally. And by the way, shout out to our upstate New York guys in the 518 because they are national champions, by the way, in flag football.
Nice.
National champions.
Nice. National.
And there's too many names to kind of go over, and I know I would leave someone off if I tried to list them all,
Right.
but I'm not going to try to do that. So, but kudos to all you guys out there. You guys know who you are, national champions, and it's nothing to slight over because it is called national for a reason. Teams from
Mhm.
all over the country go and compete down in Florida for nationals. So, um, it's pretty exciting. I feel like for a lot of guys out there. Yeah, Paul also says 518 flag guys all love it exactly because um it is a growing sport and it's rapidly growing. And to your point too, Jim, I feel like that's part of it too, is the fact that this sport has been growing because anybody can play it. Like literally anybody can play it.
Yeah.
I know not everybody's a superior athlete, but if you love the sport, you can continue to play it. There's adult leagues all over the place. And
Mhm.
I can only assume that going forward, now that it's reaching the attention of worldwide, reaching the Olympics now, that it's gonna continue to grow in every city, in every place that they can have it. So, I think it's a
Mhm.
huge thing. It's a huge win for the US now, and now they're even trying to implement NFL players. And that I think is a bigger hurdle, right? We talked about this briefly last night in our other show, Blindside Blitz, over at Grumblings Media,
Mhm.
and, we did talk about the different options for NFL players and who we could expect possibly. Like everybody's going to obviously gravitate to the big stars. Like you brought up Justin Jefferson. Tyreek
Mhm.
Hill's also kind of said some things along the way about playing flag, or Patrick Mahomes, and
Mhm.
and we just heard recently Mahomes state like, "Oh, how impressive would it be to have a gold medal on your resume,
Yeah.
and have that as a little stamp there of approval."
Mhm.
And it's all it's hey, it sounds great, but there's some things that come with it now. Like, you're gonna miss training camp, or at least a big portion of it, if you choose to go do this and go try out for the US Olympic team. And then what does that do to your team going into the regular season? And are you gonna be away for, like, the whole season? Like, are you gonna have to literally take the season off? Like, we don't
Yeah.
know what those parameters are. We don't know what they're gonna have to go through. So with all that being said, like, I don't anticipate any top end, you know, player in the league is gonna be going over there, because if it hurts your team's chances for the season in 2028, I don't think you're gonna be allowed to do it, and I think that you're gonna be too important to the team as it is. So you might want to kind of temper expectations when it comes to what type of players are gonna be there. Like, maybe, and you mentioned before too last night about each team. It's not like you know an all four, whoever wants to do it. It's every team can pick one player to go and try out for the Olympic team. So
Yeah.
um, you're limited. You can only pick one guy. Are you gonna pick Patrick Mahomes to leave the Chiefs? You know what I mean? For who knows
Mhm.
how long,
Right.
just to compete. So I don't anticipate star named players or players that are very significant in their role for each squad to go and try out. I think you're gonna be more apt to guys that are maybe backups, or guys that are even lower than that. Maybe third
Mhm.
stringers that,
Mhm.
have the athletic ability, but just not the clout.
Right, and it's really reminiscent to me now. I'm thinking about it. And it's terrible because I stopped really following baseball for a while and stuff, so I'm really out of it again. But there is again a game. I think it's during the spring or the summer, like or something, right before they end up starting or something. That it's like basically not an Olympic, but it's a national kind of league game there tournament that they do that they can jump into and do that you still have to train for, but you're away from the team, you're training, you're going to go do this, and potentially again that can wear on you before you get into the season. And a
Right.
lot of players had debated doing this and things like that, and I think it's kind of similar to that to an extent, with not knowing a whole lot about it, but I do recall something like that. Paul also says flag football will make the game of real football a bigger game and more eyes on to the game as well. I think so. Again, we already see it. Like I know my niece. That's when I saw her the other day. She was like, when we were talking about band or even sports you want to do. She wanted to try flag football, and
Mm.
I don't even know her to even try to watch football before. So I mean, for her to be interested, just to say, because now the door's open. It's not like all of a sudden before women were like, "Hey, I want to try out for the team's football team," and we might have seen it before. And we're like, "Yeah, okay, you're not. What are you gonna be the kicker or something like that?" But now with flag football and how they've integrated or put it into high school sports now, and
Mhm.
having actually a flag team for high school sports,
Yeah.
it's opening the door now. So people even want to give it a try. I'm like, hey, what's this about? Let me try it out. You know what I mean? So that's gonna make it wider. Um,
I mean,
so
the
again, too,
NFL, I mean, to be honest, the NFL is
mhm,
already worldwide. There's
right.
already tons of eyes
Well,
on
yeah,
it,
we get
and
that.
everything else like that. I think, like, for honestly, like, for flag football, that's where the bigger impact is.
Hmm.
Is now that you're gonna actually have Olympic flag football worldwide where everybody gets to see this sport and how special it can be, how awesome and entertaining it can be. Like,
Oh
dude,
yeah.
I mean, I'm blown away by some of the plays that are made in my local league by some of these really good players.
Well,
So,
that's the thing though, is like, because you're talking about, 518, they just represented and won the
national champions.
national. Yeah. Does anybody even know about a national championship happening?
Only the guys in flag football, only people that
Right.
are involved in flag football know about
Right.
it.
And that's the thing. This gets on the stage, and now we've seen multiple arena leagues open up and things like that and shut down, but try and keep things going. We've got the UFL. This, like you said, I think is a bigger door opener for flag itself to open into bigger national leagues and national teams,
Mhm, mhm.
so I think that will be huge. All
Yeah.
right, we've got a comment here
Our
from Mike
boy,
Tackett.
Mike Tackett, OG know-it-all, says first non-contact injury will make the most of these NFL guys opt out. Also, I think this will affect the next CBA too. There is already a Team USA flag team. Gonna be hard to evaluate how good these guys are at flag football.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
the next point too.
that's the other
Mhm.
thing too, is it is a different sport. There's
Mhm.
different rules to learn, there's different techniques to utilize. Even like when you're carrying the ball, like you kind of touched on it briefly earlier in the show, that there's a lot of hip movement, a lot more
Mhm.
hip movement, dips when you're kind of dipping down while you're still running. You can jump in the air, you flip your hips left or right, like you do spin moves. There's a whole different variations of moves you can do to kind of
Mhm.
prevent from guys grabbing your flags. And
Yep.
there's other rules like flag shielding, and everyone's gonna be like,
Yeah.
"What the hell's that?
Big.
What's
Yeah.
flag shielding?" Like
Yeah.
that, that's honestly that's when a ball carrier is swiping away the hand of a defensive player to try
Right.
to attempt to pull your flag.
And that's like how often when you're somebody that's starting out gets
Oh, it
called
happens all
like
the
that,
time. Happens
especially,
all
what
the
I
time.
mean? Because a stiff arm, you want to try and keep
Yes.
them away from there. That's going to
Yep.
be one of the first things that the NFL
Right.
guys are going to come and be like, oh man, and then not get used
Right.
to that.
And
So
to
it,
and to Mike
it's big.
Tackett's point,
Mhm,
there is already a Team USA flag team that's
mhm.
on the pro circuit.
Yeah,
But those guys, they all should be going to try out. Like when you're at
that's
a
the thing.
when you're
Mhm.
at that kind of level, or if you're that level of player that you have all the talent in the world, you should compete. You should go and try out for the US Olympic team. Because what's to say? Like we talked about it last night about how cool would it be to go from just on the flag football scene you're known, but now worldwide you could possibly be known because you're part of the US flag football Olympic team and possibly getting a gold medal for flag football. That'd be insane. What an
Yeah.
experience. What an experience.
Right. And like you said, with so many people there to try out, it would be interesting, one, to see again, they're allowed to nominate, one person per team. We get that,
Mhm.
but you add that into the group of
Right.
people that already know the game, that are already professionals at it, and who
Mhm.
even makes the squad. You know what I mean? Because that's the biggest debate a lot of times that people are talking about right now. It's nice to say, like, I think somebody already had me. It was ESPN already, like, oh, here's our top flag team. And we've drafted this, and this is Patrick Mahomes, our quarterback, and this guy's
Right.
and that, or Lamar, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, but you forget about the guys that are already good at this sport. That they would have to compete against. So you might not even see Lamar or any of these guys on that team.
No,
And like
I
Mike
don't think
Tackett
so.
again, that's the first thing I went to with this whole thing. I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool and all, but
Right.
I don't know if players are even like, they dig it. I get it, but you know how they protect their bodies now and how they don't want to do some of the practices. They don't, even for the Pro Bowl, the flag game they play now, they don't do anything. They barely touch each other and stuff like that. That type of game, that flag game is nothing like the real game.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's a bit of a rude awakening for them if they get into this whole thing. And yeah, the CBA would have to get taken care of, and a lot of talks with Troy Vincent there and try and work it out.
Yeah, so our boy Paul chimed in. He said, "So it is a bad idea to do a flag USA team versus an NFL flag team to let the NFL guys figure it out." I think here's the problem with that
Ooh.
is you. But here it is.
Yeah.
We just kind of barely touched on it. Is
Yep.
the injury factor? If
Hmm.
one of these NFL players get injured because they're trying out for flag or playing a game to kind of try to prove how good they are at it, it's not going to go well with your contract Like
Right.
you could be voiding money that normally would be guaranteed because you're doing in the NFL's eyes, a recreational type of game, just to kind of see or get used to the sport. That's going to be what if you make the Olympic team.
Mhm.
That's where the training is going to start. Is if you make the team, you're going to have practices. You're going to have flag grabbing drills and learning the new rules that you're going to have to implement when you play the game. So that should only be a thing if, in fact, it gets to that point where you know where you make the Olympic team or not. Like, I don't think we're gonna do these trial runs to where because there's too much at jeopardy. Appreciate the comment, Paul, the
Yeah,
question,
definitely. I mean, that's
but,
an interesting
hey,
take
listen,
though.
everybody, get interactive with us, we'll drop your comments, and we're gonna read them out. We're gonna give you a shout out, that's what the show is basically all about. It's about you guys getting your voices heard and having good conversation. Do that. Further support the channel. We do appreciate everybody that has already done so. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for us. Hit the thumbs up while you're there. Share it to all your family and friends that love football talk. Um, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah, yeah, Joe. So I mean, that'll be interesting to find out. I don't see like starters. I'd say maybe those third string, fourth string guys that are around there. I say they give it a whirl because again, if you're barely have an opportunity to crack the starting lineup on a team, why not say, hey, I can go for broke and still be an Olympic champion and have that on my belt too as well.
Yeah.
Because again, even it's gonna be tough competition because again, the pedigree of some of these flag players, but when opposed to some, college players and then pro players, that some are just still, even some of the second to third worst guys are still better than some of these other
Yeah.
guys. So,
Right.
they have an opportunity to excel in,
I
in,
feel
in
like
a
that's going
different
to be
sport.
more
Most
likely
of it. Right.
scenario with some of the NFL players.
Right.
Um, and
And
then Mike Tackett just mentions, he goes, "Will the NFL expect profit sharing if NFL guys are on the team?" And this is the thing; it's for your country. Like,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't see
I don't,
like my thing is we would have to look into like, okay, what about the NHL? You
mhm.
know, does the NHL get any profit sharing in the Olympic for the Olympics? Does the NBA get any profit sharing for the Olympics? If they don't, then no. This is kind of one of those things where you're going to compete for your country. It's a pride thing.
Mhm.
It's something to possibly obtain an Olympic medal, whether it be gold, bronze, or silver. Um, it is a huge achievement to compete for your country and to beat other countries. Like, that's the name of the game. It's competition. So
Right.
that's kind of what I would think. I don't think the profit sharing would get too involved because it's not like the NFL sending all of their players. You know what I
Right.
mean? If
Right.
they were sending like the NHL and NBA do, like they do it
Mhm.
every time that their tickets up.
Yeah.
So if the NFL did get into it, then it would be a cool thing to kind of look into to see, does the NBA do that? Does the NHL do it? Uh, if it got to that level, but right now it's more like a trial run for the Olympics. They could always remove this too. Like, it's not something that they have to keep in from now that they've implemented it. It's not something that they're going to be ironclad and say, okay, well, we can't take the sport out of the Olympics. So if it's not a success, it would suck. But at the same time, it's also one of these things where the Olympics want to see just how impactful it could be, how popular it could be, and so on.
Mhm, mhm. Paul
Paul,
Gifford, he's
yeah,
he's he's on the same thing about maybe practice squad players. Yeah, because that's what it's most likely going to be, you would think. And Joe, as far as you're talking about, profit sharing and all that stuff, though, too, that with the Olympics, NFL's like the official sponsor of the NFL or something. NFL is going to be involved with this. They're going to have commercials all over during
yeah,
the Olympics, even too.
yeah.
So they're going to even generate revenue somehow out of this. Either they're not going to, but I think in turn it will turn into revenue for everybody as well because if owners are going to be making more money, the NFL is going to tell them to also they can raise the salary cap. Cap goes up, and then again it could get displayed out to players too
I think
eventually.
when it comes to the CBA, Mike Tackett kind of like alluded to it that when it comes to the new CBA that's going to be agreed upon, it's not going to be really about flag football at all. It's going to be
No.
about what has transpired now in our
Mhm.
modern day of NFL,
Mhm.
where they want to add an
And
extra game they
mhm.
to the regular season. They want to
Mhm.
continue to expand the international games. I mean, it's getting to a point where, like, okay, when do we stop? NFL players, coaches, they're not huge fans of doing all this traveling or traveling as far as they're going to have to this season, but they're forced to. Their hands are tied. They kind of have to, but it's going to get to a point, and I feel like Mike Tackett is right. It's going to be interesting to see when the CBA does come up for negotiation, what in fact both sides are looking for. Because on the player side, it's going to be like, well, if you want to take away a preseason game and add another regular season game, that's not the same. We're getting injured out there during regular season games.
Yeah.
We're beaten up all year, and we're still playing for you guys. And I understand
Mhm.
they get paid for it very well, but in the end, it's like, at what point, what kind of product are you going to have on the football field when it comes to playoffs? We've talked about this before. Like the NFL doesn't want their star players getting injured before the team makes the playoffs or something. That ruins it. But if you keep expanding and having more international games and more travel and more things to do, something's got to change.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And one last note here on this, Mike Tackett does make a good point here too. The NFL player makes the flag team, but fans then will go out and buy the flag jersey. That it's, and I
Mhm.
think that's even better though too, and I think that's going to generate a lot of money because how many times do you see now with players not being loyal to teams, but even on the same thing too, a lot of players only last so long and then they're traded or they go into free agency and move on or this and that. You can't stay loyal to getting this jersey for this guy because you don't even know if he's going to be on the team,
Right.
after his contract's over.
Yeah.
One thing about the Olympic flag jersey though, he was on the Olympic team. He represented his country. That's forever there, too,
Yeah.
in a sense,
But
too.
it doesn't stop
He's not
there
going to
either.
swap to like
But
go with Lithuania.
my thing, it doesn't stop there either. Like you're talking about just a
Yeah.
jersey. No, it's not
Oh no,
just a
yeah. It's not
jersey.
just a
You can
jersey.
get
Yeah.
custom flags.
Oh
You can
yeah.
get they can go headgear. They can
Hmm.
do custom headgear. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could be purchasing for flag football, and it's going to end up being a huge seller for sure.
All right, Joe. Paul's got a question here.
So say they add another regular season game. Do you think load management will become bigger like it is in the NBA? I think it's a problem.
It's a problem, and it's a problem that they face all the time now, even like to an extent,
Wait,
because that's why they're talking about the latter games in week 17, 18, resting players for the
here's my
playoffs.
thing. Here's my thing. We can't compare NFL to any other sport because it is the most violent, most physical sport that America has. I mean, besides fighting, right?
Mhm.
Besides UFC or something like that, but we're talking about football here, and you have other sports like NHL, like NBA that are kind of involved in the Olympics, but football is so physical. Like, I think it's almost to the point where I think the owners are missing the point. And the NFL is missing the point. It's like I understand that you guys are all about money and making the NFL bigger and growing the revenue stream and all that. But there gets to a point where like the quality on the football field is going to dip because you got a half injured Joe Burrow. You got a Josh Allen that has a sprained ankle that can't run anymore, and now the Bills, suffer because of it. Like there's going to be other things. Jamar Chase, name any big player. Justin Jefferson. What happens when he, if he happens to, injure his leg and now he's out for the season. Well, the Vikings aren't going to be as good as they could be.
Mhm.
So, like the product on the football field dips if these star players get hurt or continue to get hurt. And I don't think the NFL wants that, but they keep pushing a
Mhm.
different narrative. They keep
Mhm.
telling us, "Oh, this rule is in place for safety. This is how you can tackle, how you can't tackle."
Mhm.
Well, you can't take every way to tackle away from defense. Now you're not going to have a defense. Like, what's the point of investing in certain positions when you keep stripping away what has made this game great? Now there's only certain ways you can tackle. Can't tackle from behind. Can't drag him down by his hips. can't pull on the top of the back of his jersey. That's a horse collar that could lead to an injury. Anything can lead to an injury. So this
Yeah.
whole safety propaganda that the NFL keeps spewing is absolute bullshit. It's absolute garbage. Like, you can get hurt on any given play, and players still do. We're not noticing a dip in injuries. We're just noticing injuries continuing in different ways. Like, they're not preventing injuries from happening, and you're never going to with the sport. So I think we're getting to a place, we're getting to a point here where the table's got to turn around, and where they need to start going back to, what's making this game great, and stop kind of dictating and changing all these rules and changing this, that, and the other thing. I'm all for making it as safe as possible, but within reason. You can't change the game, and that's the bottom line.
Well said, Joe. Well said. I would not disagree with anything you just said. There you go. You said it all. It's all good.
Sorry, hello,
I
carried
know.
away.
I know. I let you roll, baby. You
Got a
know,
little
when
carried
you're
away.
cooking, I let you cook, and do it. You know
Got a
what I'm
little
saying? All right. So after that, let's get into spring meetings again. Joe, let's touch
right.
on some of the smaller ones quick, and then we'll get into the tush push that everybody I know wants to talk about, I'm sure. And then,
Hold on, we
even
got
the playoffs. So,
we got another comment here.
all right, what do we got?
Before we get into our boy Mike Tackett, NFL is the only pro sport in North America that doesn't have fully guaranteed contracts. Guys in college are making more on NIL deals than NFL contracts. Combine that with more games, we could see a lockout. And it's a good point.
We talked about that last night,
we
even
talk,
too.
we talk about the CBA, we
Mhm.
talked about the NIL deals before and everything, and what's that going to mean for college players? Well, we kind of, when it first broke out with these NIL deals, we said, well, that's going to kind of force the hand a little bit to keep players in college, and they're not going to want to leave early to kind of make the money and all that. And we're seeing that.
Mhm.
Not always, but we're seeing a big jump in that where players like, oh, I'll take an extra $4 million and stay for one more year and play college ball. Sure, but Tackett's got a point, and that's why he's one of our OGs. Like, he's a guy that always drops knowledge. He's a guy that's very into it. He has a lot of contacts that he shares information with. So he's got a great point. And does it mean a potential lockout? Possibly. It could happen. And that's why, things just have to change, from the top to the bottom, with the NFL. They got to change
Mhm.
the way they're doing things, and how, like, you had a little bit of a rant last night, Jim, about that same kind of subject, about how the NFL only cares about revenue and they don't care about safety. And it goes hand in hand. Like, prove it to me that you're here for us. Prove it to me that you're not here for the big dollar. And so far, we're noticing a trend that Roger Goodell is leading, to where he's like, well, I don't care about anything but revenue and expansion of the NFL, because that's what it seems like. Not about safety, because this is a violent sport. You're always going to get injured. So, but things do have to change, going forward with the new CBA, like Tackett said. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see the closer we get to that new type of negotiation period for the CBA.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think maybe going after, let's piggyback off of that quick, and we'll
Yeah.
just get into our couple here. I think we can bring up quick that the Lions withdraw their playoff seating proposal, which I
True.
think is a total like shocker after hearing this, after
They
it
had
was
a
so
big
supposed to,
push.
because and I'm hearing they withdrew because they didn't get enough support from other owners and other teams.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard. And which is not funny, because if you were at the last meeting and you guys weren't
Yeah.
sure enough, so you table it to this one, and
Right.
Goodell is like full steam ahead on this thing. He absolutely wants this.
Mhm.
So is it the fact that even that teams have been just more like, whoa, well, maybe now this is our shot to kind of just go against Goodell here and this stifle this whole thing? Because again, the money, the revenue, not caring about safety, CBA coming. I think all that is generated off of
Mhm.
this thing too, because and we get it that, some people think that teams with a better record, well, they have a better record, they should probably, be there at home, get the home game or whatever, and this. Why are the
Mhm.
divisions, they suck or whatever. it's not always the case that the team is just worse. They play tougher competition, especially if one division's tougher, they play those teams twice each time. So you can either go 50-50 on there, you can lose both of them every time you play, and on all 6 of them, or just, you go, what's your record on that? No matter what on that one. But then you got other teams that are a little diluted. So I think you still have to have that in play there. And, like I said, when they decided to reseed it after this, that's not that big of a deal to me because, okay, at least the division winner's still in there, but you would have to change the format of how you schedule games, that you would have to be more games within conference. But the fact that they just withdrew it today, which we're not even going to vote on this, I think is very intriguing because Goodell's probably like, all right, now we're going to get this going. Here we go. And boom, nothing. What happened? He's like, what? So, I mean, this is not going anywhere now. So until he probably brings it up again next year.
It's intriguing because, correct me if I'm wrong, did we get bad information on this? Because now it sounds like coming out of the meetings that there was teams thinking like, "Oh, well, you're still getting rid of division winners." Like,
No,
is that a
no,
thing?
they're
Like,
not. Yeah.
because I heard that from Mark Davis and how like that's what he was concerned about is how like, "Oh, well, we're not going to. I don't want to do this. I would vote if it was in place for a vote." Mark
Mhm.
Davis was prepared to say no on this
Yeah.
because he was thinking they were going to somehow get rid of division winners and not reward those teams for winning their division. Um, and that's the crazy thing. Like if that's not it, then Mark Davis got bad
Yeah,
information,
he did
bad
get bad
intel,
information then,
and
because
it's like
that's something they even updated. Because I think
because
originally it wasn't, and then they just made a change to the proposal that,
right,
hey, all right, we're gonna still add division
okay,
winners in it,
okay.
but we're gonna
We were right.
reseed after. Yes.
So we were right the whole time.
Yeah.
So my thing is like I don't understand why they withdrew it. Makes no sense to me. This to me, from an outsider's perspective looking in, this looked like they started to gain some traction here. It looked like they were going to get this push through if they continued. And then maybe some last second conversations were had with other teams that changed their minds, and maybe that's why it fell through. So we've seen that happen all the time where there's like these behind the door conversations, like at night, late at night, on the phone, whatever, trying to
Mhm.
convince one team or another to swing one way, one side, you know,
Right.
and maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why Detroit was like, well, we're not going to get enough support now, so we might as well just take it off the table.
Yeah.
But
Just
it's
can't.
interesting because this is something that I mean, I if it was in fact where you're still gonna have division winners, you're still gonna reward those teams for winning their so-called divisions, then I didn't have a problem with it. You're still rewarding those teams that, have won their division, that have good records or, whatnot. But man, I mean, this is kind of one of those things where it took me by surprise today when I heard the news that like, oh, they're not even gonna vote on it. They
Right.
just completely ripped it off the ballot. So maybe this gets revisited, maybe next year,
Mhm.
possibly. Like it seemed like there was some good things about it, and it's rewarding the teams that we always complain as fans, like, oh well, my team, had 10 wins and they deserve to be in the playoffs, but because they were, second in the division and there was other teams that had one more win, like we deserve to be in there instead of you know, whatever other division that ended up making it, like other teams,
Mhm.
what what the hell? That there was those arguments and they were, realistic, that if you have a competitive team and they deserve to be in, but they end up getting, overshadowed because of like the breakdowns for like head to head and point differential and strength of
Right.
schedule and all that. And then the formula makes it this team gets in instead of you guys. It's like, what? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so we had
I
a
think
tougher
that was
schedule.
partially the argument.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, um, it sucks, honestly, because I think this was going to be a good thing to reward teams that are competitive for the year, that have put in the work, that definitely deserve maybe getting a playoff spot, at least getting to see the postseason and see how far they could go because of their competitive team. But now it seems like we're going to have to just kind of stick with what we got now, and we'll see what happens in the near future if they do
Yeah.
revisit this.
Right. Yeah. And like, I mean, I'm happy. I'm all for it. I like things staying the same, I don't like getting crazy
Yeah,
with
Grandpa.
all that stuff. It's everything we liked so far. I mean, why try and change it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's worked
Right.
so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next let's get right into it then. Let's get right into the tush push.
Yep.
It
Still
has
legal,
been
by the way. Still legal.
still, yeah. So they tried to ban it here, and the NFL had voted, and it did not pass. So by the vote of 22-10,
Mhm.
so they needed 24 votes here, and they are too short and unable to pass it through
Good rapper, by the way.
get to. Yes, too short. Nice.
Yeah.
And these, I'll give you a list of the 10 teams that voted it down. The Eagles, obviously. You got the Ravens, the Browns, the Lions, the Jags, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Saints, the Jets, and the Titans here. All
So
those teams decided not
what's
to.
interesting about that list of names that you just read is I know the Buffalo Bills were dead set against this tush push. I
Mhm.
like to call it brotherly shove. I hate
The
the
brotherly
freaking
shove
name
is
tush
nice.
push.
Yes.
But I will say this: it's interesting to me that the Bills wanted to vote it, and ban it and all that, but their division around them voted to keep it. I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting because if you notice, the Bills were kind of one of those
Well,
teams that were really trying to mimic, brotherly shove in Buffalo. We saw it in the playoffs sometimes. You know what I mean? They were trying to utilize it to get first downs and whatnot. So I wonder if the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets, like I wonder if they were like, well, we have a hard time stopping the Bills, so we're gonna, you know what I mean, like,
right.
or somehow, like, maybe it was a strategic vote. In other words, like they're like, you know, so
Yeah.
I don't know because
Because
maybe they want to try it. Maybe they want to do some things this year because
perhaps to get into it. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's
so
Mike Vrabel there for the Patriots too. I mean, and he was even asked about it, and he even said, "Hey, listen," he's like, "It's hard to stop Lamar Jackson. So do we tell Lamar Jackson he can't run with the football?" You know what I mean? So is that why that was his explanation of it all? He's
that's
like,
stupid.
so he's thinking, well, he's looking at it from the point of view of he doesn't look at it as, hey, you guys are putting it as player safety. He's looking at it as you guys are complaining that it's a play you can't stop, and that's why you want to get rid of it. So that's his point of view, and I'm wondering if that kind of echoed through, to ownership of the Patriots too, and maybe Robert Kraft thought the same way too, and why maybe that's why they voted to
That's
keep
a
it.
terrible
They just saw
analogy.
it.
That's just dumb.
But no, I
Like,
get it. I mean, but that's what his point of view is. His point of view is that it's not a safety hazard. You guys just want to get rid of it just because you can't stop it at this point. And like you said, also the Buffalo Bills owner Terry Pagula, he said this team was pretty good at the play. It didn't do well for them in the playoffs because they really fucked it up too. They didn't do well at all. Josh Allen couldn't get low enough, and that's a problem though. The dude's like 6'7" or whatever, like super tall.
all he has to do is fall down.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they push him over.
I
Like, that's
know,
it.
right? And he said that we were still pretty good at it, and we still think we should ban it here. And what's funny about this in this voting process, how like crazy it got, I guess, in the voting process between
Mm.
owners. I mean, it was
Howie
hostile.
Roseman
Yeah,
was
Howie
losing his
Roseman,
mind.
everybody, a lot of people voiced their different opinions.
Mhm.
San Francisco 49ers owner Jed York, he asked Jeff Lurie after he spoke. Lurie had a long, hour long
Mhm.
speech and added, I'll tell you some of the words he added in that speech too as well. But Jed York said Lurie and asked him, he's like, how much more shit he needed to say after he was speaking and things like that too. So he's like, dude, all right, how much more of this shit you got to keep telling us here? Blah, blah, blah. Because Lurie went on and on about how they developed the play and how it was good, how it's like this, it's like that. And I think one of the major quotes here, I think that kind of set people off in the wrong tone, was in Lurie's speech. He made an analogy. He was telling the room that regardless of whether the play was banned or not, that it was a win-win situation for them. And this is why he said for the Eagles, adding that it was like a wet dream for a teenage boy to create a play that was so successful that the only way for it to be stopped was for it to be banned. And then that made them go crazy. There,
Yeah.
especially because with Roger Goodell and Troy Vincent in the room, there was women in the room, and they were just, oh, now we're offended. I can't believe you just said wet dream in front of women. And oh my goodness, it made that analogy.
Whatever.
And
Get
so
out of the room.
again, that set the tone and everything. And that's what I mean. I think on this side, as far as the Eagles, of course, they're going to think of it that way and say, listen,
Yeah.
you guys just can't stop us. So
Yeah.
this is why you're
Right.
trying to get rid of it, which I
Yeah.
think that's partially part of it too. Because again, if you're telling me that there's injuries happening and there's no data to support your injuries, even though again, we've seen people have stingers or neck
Oh, yeah.
problems, issue, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
There's, you can't keep telling me that. Then, and there's just got to be a different point of view to it. You know what I mean? If you don't have the data to support your argument. And
Well,
I think
that's
that's
the
where
thing.
these guys are coming from.
That's the thing is no major injury has happened yet, but I'm waiting because it's going to happen. Like there's too many head-on collisions that go into that little scrum of theirs for no injuries to happen. And yes, there's nothing documented because a lot of these athletes, almost 95, 98% of them play injured every week. Yeah, they're not injuries that are going to keep them out of the game because whether you get juiced up to play, like I'm sorry, Patrick Mahomes with his sprained ankles and everything, and him to still be able to play on a high sprained ankle, mind you, you can't perform well. So there's no doubt about it. That guy was juiced up in order to play those playoff games, in order to play the
Mhm.
Super Bowl. Like, there's no doubt. These guys have painkillers. These guys still play with injured limbs and whatnot, and sore muscles and tendons. Like, it's a brutal, violent sport. And
Mhm.
you talk about tweaks, you talk about kind of soft tissue injuries or pulls or even, like Chris Jones with his neck issue in the Super Bowl and all that. Like that was from that play. And it's going to continue. I know there's no hard data showing that like, oh, well this guy had a uh broken clavicle or something of that nature or the shoulder got banged up and he's out for 4 weeks. Like, yeah, there's not that, but there's other injuries that are minor that are gonna lead to a more major impact. So, the fact that this is still in play, and I'm not debating this because
Yeah.
of the play itself.
Mhm.
I've come up with a solution, but nobody's tried it yet. I mean, just do the same damn play, same formation back at them. Push a linebacker into the pile right at the quarterback. That's what's gonna stop
Mhm.
it. That's the only way you can mimic what they do. And I'll tell you this right now, that's going to lead to more injuries. You do something like that. You're going to have
Mhm.
a 200 and 30, 40-pound linebacker going right at your quarterback head to head. Concussions. We talk about concussions. We talk about safety, right?
Mhm.
Well, I'm waiting for the first time we get a concussion out of this because that's going to be another thing that follows. And I like the strategic move by the Eagles. I think it's a cool play. It's awesome, and the fact that they have such a high percentage, good for them.
Mhm.
But I don't see a whole lot of other teams implementing this same formation and trying to do it the same way.
The same way, yeah.
I see
Mhm.
I see I only saw like maybe a couple last season that tried to do it the same way. The
Yep.
Bills were one of them,
Yep.
where you know I, you can do it too. You
Yeah.
can copycat the freaking play
Mhm.
and try to perfect it like the Eagles did, but nobody else is doing it. They don't all complaining about it. But
Yep.
I will say this: I do kind of expect injuries to be a thing with this. If they continue this, it's going to be for at least this year. I don't know if they're going to ever revisit this. It could be one of these things where like maybe people change their minds after this year, but it's gonna have to be like you said, like it's gonna have to be like it's gonna take a quarterback. It's gonna take um a major injury, even on defense or offense, for this
Right.
to kind of be brought back up again and be like, hey, look, we tried to tell you guys, but now this happened.
Right. And then maybe even the data isn't there because, like you said, it's the Eagles, the Bills. I think the Ravens have tried to do it. I think where they have maybe with their fullback trying to do it, and there's somebody else I think that tries a lineman trying to get behind there to help push him or
Mm,
something like that, or
yeah.
does something weird like that.
Mhm.
Um, it's yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
different, but um, like you said, will they revisit it down the road? Potentially, especially if this year something happens.
Mhm.
Um, so, but right now it's not. So we get to look at it and move forward here with this
It's
one.
great, and then one other thing that, because like I know we talked off the air about this, but like to
Hmm.
me, it's kind of like any kind of like democracy. Like it's usually majority rules on a vote.
Hmm.
But the fact that the NFL has in their policy a 75%, it needs 75% of teams to vote yay or nay in order for it to pass or fail. To me is kind of insane.
Well, I
Like,
think that's a better thing. I would rather have the majority, the major majority vote that they want it changed. Like say, like even we just had our school tax vote, around here, right?
mhm,
Where I am in Niskayuna, they needed, because there was only a raise of so many percentage. I don't want any raises in my taxes, especially school
you
taxes as it
don't?
is.
You
But they
sure?
said, oh yeah, I know, right? They said that New York allows a 5.5% raise or like that every year is expected. So if you're
Yeah.
below that, you don't need a certain percentage to get the vote through. So you need a lower. So their raise is like 3%. Right. So under that, we just need 50% of voters plus one. So you're telling me that if we had 51 out of 100 people say that they wanted it,
Mhm,
now we got it. What about the
mhm.
other whole half that hates it? And like, then you just screwed us because who's that other one person? If it's a 75%, then you know that overall, it's a majority of everybody. We all pretty much wanted it. Most likely, it's probably good for everybody. You know what I mean? The small minority of there, didn't want it. I'm sorry you did get overruled, but it was the majority of everybody here, not majority as 51% out to 50. To
Yeah,
49. Like, are you kidding
I
me?
get I get that. I'm not saying 51%.
No, I
I'm
get that.
saying like 20 votes should be majority
Mhm.
because you
So like
have
70% somewhere
32
around there.
teams.
So
Yeah,
yep, yep.
like I still kind
Still
of are along the
a good
same
amount.
lines, but at the same time, I don't think it should be so overwhelmingly, you know, voted on just to get something to pass or fail. That's just my little quick take on it. I just think it's a
Hmm.
little too many votes because you see this all the time. Every meeting that they vote on a new rule change or they vote on just a new policy or something new that it's like, dude, you need 24 votes just to get this
Hmm.
thing through. And the fact that like it came up only 2 votes shy of reaching that goal is kind of telling in itself too. Like you already see like the majority of the league wanted to ban it. But I'm curious, I would really like to be a fly on the wall of that meeting because I'm really curious what's the stance of these teams that did want it banned? I'm just curious
Right.
to hear like from them, was it injury related? Was it even projecting like, oh well,
Hmm.
what could happen type of, what was
Right.
the stance of these teams that did want to ban this play? Because I
Right.
understand the Eagles are super successful with it and some other teams are experimenting, but I'm just curious because for that amount of votes to come through to ban it, I'm very curious to see what everybody
What?
had to
Yeah.
say, but we'll never know.
No,
So
and that's what I think would be the next best show on HBO or by the NFL is to
HBO
have those
NFL
open.
meetings.
Yes, yeah, like what behind the closed doors, what happens
That's
and
not
all
gonna
that. You
happen.
tell us. I mean, that would be amazing, right? Just
It's
to
not
see
gonna
and they
happen.
believe it. I mean, that'd be hilarious.
Oh, it would be amazing,
It'd
but
be
is it
great
it just
entertainment. You know
the
what I
NFL
mean?
does not want us to know everything, that's for sure.
Oh, it'd be good.
Keep us in the
But they
dark.
could still cut it out pieces. I mean, you know how they chop it all the time and things. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, NFL could have the rights
But
to it or
but yeah, so
whatnot,
there you go.
but
We will get to see the tush push this year now.
so,
So I mean, that's like the brotherly shove.
yes, one thing that did get past everybody is now we have a new onside kick rule change. That got
Mhm.
passed through. So teams
Which
can
I don't
now
mind that
attempt
now.
an
Mhm.
onside kick anytime they're trailing throughout the game, not just in the 4th quarter, it could be in the 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, so on. Also, kicking team now lines up a yard closer when they attempt this onside kick. So, you get a little closer, a little bit. I know it's a yard, but it's 3 feet. Like it is, a little closer. Maybe it's going to increase the recovery, percentage because like
Perhaps.
last year it was only 6%. Only
Mhm.
6% you could successfully recover the onside kick. So I don't I really don't think this is gonna change much. Like how many teams are willing to take the risk on doing onside kick in the second quarter when they're only
Right.
down by 10. Like,
Right.
I just kind of don't see this being a real thing. And it's not like something is secret like it used to be. Like, oh,
Right. That's the
you let
thing
the
that's a
you,
killer.
you you might tell the refs like, hey, we're gonna go on onsides here, and then they don't have to announce it. They still announce it. It's not a
Mhm.
surprise thing. That's what used to get teams sometimes is like, oh man, right before halftime, you kicked an onside. What the hell?
Right.
But
Well, they line up like they're doing a
yeah,
regular kick and then all of a sudden shuffle over and now they're
yeah,
over on one side. They're like,
right.
whoa, oh, wait a minute. And then that even forces the team to make a timeout. Like, oh,
Yes.
wait,
Yep. Yep.
change, get person, hands team, you know?
So I mean, it's cool. Now you have the freedom to do it whenever you want to, but you still got to announce it. So it's kind of like, it's really not much of the same, I don't see an uptick in attempts. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just can't see you taking that big of a risk and then turning the ball over if you don't get it to give that team, whether it be on your side of the field or at the 50 or whatever. So yeah, yeah. So we got the onside kick to go through. Everybody should be rejoiced and happy about that.
I'm
Um,
just glad and rejoicing that it's not the 4th and 15 or 20 or whatever the hell they want to do.
oh,
And it
the
seems like that I was
yeah,
hearing too from owners that they weren't big on that either. So that's,
nah, the
I'm
one
appreciative that's
attempt to get a
yeah.
first down with a
Yeah.
play, yeah, no, I don't see that happening, and I'd be greatly disappointed if it ever got through.
Mhm.
Um, there was a couple things that did happen in the meetings that weren't really rule changes or anything, but it was kind of cool. So like for the first time, they did implement a new award for their NFL honors at the end of the year. So now they're going to have Protector of the Year award that'll honor the league's top offensive lineman at the NFL honors. So pretty cool award. I think this is kind of like a little late. Like this should have been an award already,
Mhm.
but now we're gonna at least recognize one of the top offensive linemen. It says the league's top, but really there's a lot of really good offensive linemen. So to give it to one guy is going to be a challenge in itself to award it. But
Yeah, I know they've been pushing for this a little bit, and I think somebody said I don't know if it was Jason Kelsey, I think brought it up
mhm,
at the awards banquet this last one here. I
yeah,
think said something like that. Hey, where's the award for
right,
the
linemen,
offensive lineman? Let's give it to some of these guys and blah blah and stuff. So
and you
I
could
think
see,
he's been a bit of an advocate for it.
yeah, you could also see this expanding after this year. Like I feel like linemen could be anybody, but
Yeah.
then it might get to like best center, best guard, best tackle. You know what I mean? Give the big guys some more love. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
another
Yep.
thing another thing that kind of got announced, basically more than just a vote or anything, but like Hard Knocks. Like we finally got the teams for Hard Knocks this year. Training camp, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. And then the in season for the first time, the division that they're going to be covering is the entire NFC East. Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Commanders. I think that's a great one to start off with.
That
It,
is
there's a lot of
outstanding.
intrigue there. You got the Giants. They're going to be better. They're going to be not. They made a lot of improvements. Commanders made improvements on the defensive side and offense. The Eagles are the Eagles. They're just a great franchise and have tremendous talent. And then the Cowboys is kind of like the interesting one that yes, they're getting Dak Prescott back, and they got freaking George Pickens, but really they still don't have a running game, it looks like. They still, you know, it seems like they're gonna be a decent team, I feel like, but I think they're gonna be a little bit of a underachiever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great division to start off with, Jim.
Yeah. 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 Definitely, man. It's like it's weird. It's like you said. You got your different teams. The Cowboys again. They like to be larger than life. We are the Cowboys, so you get to take a peek at them. And with
Mhm.
the talent that they've added on offense, blah blah, the troubles, tribulations they're going to be going
Right.
through.
Yeah.
Again, Eagles standard right now, defending
Mhm.
champions. You're going to get that storyline. Here we go, bouncing back. Maybe even a little bit of the tush push. You're like, hey, and then also the attitudes and players, on that squad too, and how it works because everybody was talking about. AJ Brown last year, and the bookies even reading, and excellence, and because he's complaining he's not getting the ball enough, but they're running first because they got Saquon now and stuff. So the turmoil that goes on within the organization or the locker room too, that kept behind closed doors, that
Mhm.
they've Nick Sirianni, if anything, too, you got to give him credit for that to kind of lock down and
Yeah.
bring everybody back down to base level here and control that. So you get that storyline, the young, fresh, quarterback in Jaden Daniels here leading his team to the playoffs in last year. And here we go, moving the team again. And now the Giants as well with, drafting a new quarterback. But you've also got two good veteran quarterbacks in your lineup too with, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. So,
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting dynamic
Mhm.
too, and following Joe Shane and Brian Dable's journey too, and where this goes. So,
Yeah, I'm
like
also
you said,
curious. I'm also
mhm,
curious for the Giants. I want to see how good Abdul Carter can acclimate to the NFL level
mhm,
because was dominant in college, just like a lot of these athletes that got drafted, right? Ashton Genty was kind of like the big talk of the town for running backs, and you know, there was Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. But
mhm,
it's all good that they dominated, and they should have. They were premier athletes. But now you're getting to the big stage. You know, are you going to be able to beat that offensive tackle that's had years of development already? And now Abdul Carter's got to kind of try to beat him with his hands and his speed and all that and his power. So it's
yeah,
going to be intriguing to say the least on all these teams and who they drafted. Are they going to be, are they going to be, guys that live up to the challenge? Or are they going to be guys that are like, man, I don't know, it's tough, and you can't predict that. Year 1, there's gonna be some mistakes that are made from any rookie. There's gonna be some growing pains, you know, but, can't pass judgment too early. Like, Abdul Carter to me was the best guy coming out of the league out of the draft,
mhm, mhm,
and I'll tell you right now, indications are early on for Travis Hunter, by the way, in Jacksonville. Needs a lot of work, needs a lot of refinement, is not the, star-studded, I'll say, like, guy that can just plug and play in the
mhm.
NFL. So we kind of alluded to it, to buyer beware with Travis Hunter. Tremendous athlete, but he's got to learn the nuances of playing receiver. His routes aren't that crisp like I thought they were going to be. I even thought they were going to be like electric, but apparently still got some work to do. So overall, it's going to be interesting to see how these rookies pan out for sure.
Right, and the best thing with this one is that it's during the season, right? So,
Mhm.
I think great. You're gonna see the storylines with everything, and
Mm.
this division, I think, has gotten a bit tighter here, with,
Oh yeah,
obviously, the Eagles,
oh yeah.
being the best of it here, but I
Everybody
like
got
the
better.
competition in this one,
Yes.
so I think you're gonna see a lot of that unfold throughout the season, so,
Yeah.
so it's gonna be tough.
Before
And
we go,
they get a lot of different good teams too. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So it's gonna be a tough schedule for all those
I
teams.
like it, and I like the pick for the training camp one for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
There's storylines there too. Like there's a lot to like. You know what I mean? Like Joey Bosa now going to be on the opposite side at the end, and Josh Allen again. They got to get back together. They got to get this thing right. They got to, it's interesting too because I guess if you look at the bets for them upcoming season, they're
Mhm.
not they're favored in every game. That's
Mhm.
kinda crazy to me to think that an NFL team is favored in every game that they play already, uh,
Right.
without doing anything. So, but it should be interesting to say the least. I can't wait for it. I'm here for it. It's always HBO always does a fantastic job on covering teams and working with the teams too, because it's a give and take type of relationship, whoever they work with, and they do a phenomenal job with the storylines, with whatever they're allowed to show. Um, and now that they're doing a division, I think it's just even better. This is something that I think was kind of like a missing piece to the series.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Again, and to see them in training camp, see who can try and make the squad too, the storylines
Yeah.
they always do there too.
Yes.
I think so that'll be, fun to
Jim,
watch.
real quick before we go, I got a little
Mhm.
bit of news. It's for Raider Nation out there. There's been talk by a few people regarding the setback of Christian Wilkins, who's coming back from injury, the D tackle. Uh, it essentially comes down to this. There's a concern that either a screw upon surgery, it's a rare case that might have broke
Mhm.
inside, or he re-broke the bone, which is super rare. They
Wow.
said in either case, the feeling is that he should be ready to go in August for training camp. So it's not there was a lot of concern going into the offseason, like, some people were saying, "Oh, he's going to be out for this year." There was kind of like the knee jerk reaction right away, and now I guess they're saying like now that more details have come out, more data, that it's not. It's concerning. There's no doubt about it, but it's not as major as they first thought. So now it sounds like he will be ready for training camp. So Raider fans, you can kind of like take a sigh of relief on the defensive front for yourself.
All right, there you go. I mean, that is crazy that you get to hear some of the different things that happen like that. Rare,
Mhm.
things like the screw. I never even heard of that even happening before. I've heard some of the things to where there's been a recall on some of the equipment they've used,
Oh
and
yeah,
you're like, oh, by the way,
gotta get replaced.
that shit that we put inside of you, apparently it's not good for you. So we're gonna take it out, and this new thing we're putting in, I'm telling you, is gonna be a lot better.
It's
Uh,
it feels great. It's like riding in a Cadillac.
Right? I've seen and heard that with, like, hip replacements, and it's like and that's,
Oh
like, one of
yeah,
the craziest
knees.
things for people to go
Yep.
through,
Yeah.
and what's funny too is because before it used to take, kinda like weeks of recovery or, you're there. Now it's like a day, you go in and you leave the same day. You go in and out,
Yeah.
uh,
It's crazy.
but again, that hey, no, that by the way, there's a recall on that equipment. Now we're gonna take that out. But I
Right.
never heard of a screw, breaking off into it, which hey,
And
let me tell you, with some of the surgeries that I've seen happen and like
mhm,
especially hip replacement too, and how they get that in there,
mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised. You know me, I work with wood and power tools all the time, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You do see guys strip out screws. It slides off the thing and oh, blast your hand. You're like, fuck,
Yep.
like this
Yeah.
or
Right.
whatever.
Right on.
Snap off a head to a screw every now and then. So doctors, they literally do screw the things with a
Yes.
screw gun and things that are, like the hip, they're hammering the ball in there, like bang, bang, So I guess I'm not surprised that stuff can happen though.
No doubt. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all the support. Love the comments. I mean, that was
Absolutely.
awesome to get your guys' feedback, get your guys some questions in there. We are when we go live, guys, we're interactive. So drop in the comment section next week if you missed us this week. If you're just viewing the show, continue to support our channel. We're trying to keep on growing here at Football on the Know. Head over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button for us, hit the thumbs up while you're there. It's absolutely free. It doesn't hurt you. It's just one click away, and it does go a long way for us. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to kind of recognize us and kind of push us up on up the ladder, so other people can get a chance to view us as well. Share to everybody that you know and love that loves football talk, and we'll see you guys in the next one for sure.
All right, sounds good. Like Joe said, thank you so much, everybody, for all the support you've given us. We're on 8 years now strong, and we plan to do some more and have a lot of fun this upcoming season and talk about all kinds of different things. So next week we'll bring it back with a lot more for you guys. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys in the next one.